So this year, believe it or not, is already one that is like gonna be more intense than previous years. And I say believe it or not because they've all been pretty intense. Um, and there's a reason that I think some people are calling it like the year of the dragon right now. Hey, hi everybody. My name is Beck Sahasrara. I'm a spiritual embodiment teacher, feminine empowerment mentor, psychic channel, lots of magical beings, and I've also had approximately 3 near-death experiences over the course of my life growing up. That was mostly due to significant trauma that I experienced, and the body was challenged enough for me to leave and start to cross over. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here connecting with all of you today. No, kind of. So before my near-death experiences, I didn't follow any typical religion. I grew up in a cult environment where they did have very dark, sort of not good beliefs. As a child and growing up into that, I didn't really buy into it 100%. And I always had connection to my own spiritual essence and my spiritual guides. So I've always had spirituality, and I've been around sort of messed up religion, but it wasn't mine. So I had 3 significant near-death experiences. The first one was when I was about 7-ish. My body was going through some significant trauma and abuse that was happening, enough that I guess I got sort of felt kicked out of my body. And in that experience, I ended up standing. You say standing, but like you don't have a body anymore, right? But I was kind of like standing next to my physical body. And I could see the trauma and everything still happening, but I felt very neutral and I felt very calm, and it had a little bit of distance to it. And I was also sitting next to me, who was with me was my spirit guides, these beings of light that we all have around us. But I remember being out of my body, and my female spirit guide and my male spirit guide were with me, and they had a very beautiful, warm, loving energy, and I had a sense of being held, or a sense of comfort with them. I knew that they were there to support me, and I knew who they were. As a little girl, I wasn't thinking like, these are my spirit guides, like this terminology. But I was aware that I had these sort of family kind of beings with me. And yeah, and what I remember in that experience is just looking at my body and being like, oh, like what has happened a little bit in myself, but not being afraid because of that warmth that I could feel. And I also had contact with those light beings before in different ways in my life. This was just more direct. I always describe it like kind of like being in the same room as them again. And yeah, they were just sort of emanating this message telepathically, I guess, without words, that everything was okay and that I was okay. And I also knew that it was different than other times I'd been distant from my body during trauma where I had like dissociated. This was like the energy in the space I was in was unusual and it was different. Yeah, and then the scene changed to me being above my body with those 2 primary spirit guides still with me, but now I was above, looking down at the scene, and they were standing next to me. In front of me, I should say. They were sitting in front of me. And I also had an awareness of like almost like more beings or more people like behind the scenes, kind of like I couldn't see them, but I had a feeling that there was more going on here. And now as an adult I look at that and I understand that I kind of went to another level within the death transition. And this was where I remember my male spirit guide standing in front of me and saying, "Do you want to go back?" And he said it just with a neutral love, you know, like, "Do you want to go back?" And I had the knowing that I had a choice. And I also could feel these kind of other like beings, and I remember it feeling like a grandmothery energy in the background. And now I understand it was probably this grouping of souls that may have been there if I had decided to cross over, that they were like waiting to greet me. I'm sure many of the audience watching have heard that experience of people crossing over and being met with relatives and things. And they kind of emanated a sense of like concern to me. I always like to say that it wasn't a doubt that if I went back, like I wouldn't complete my life purpose or that it would be horrifically fail, but just they were showing and sending to me like if you go back it will be dangerous and it will be hard. And so my guides were sitting in front of me lovingly asking that, and I was like, no, I'm going back. Of course I'm going back. Of course. And I had this like beautiful child sort of innocence, but like passion and motivation, energy behind me and within me, because I was being motivated by the choice, and I like the awareness of my life purpose was in me, and that was that I was here to bring love. And as a little girl it was an awareness of like I need to help everybody remember love, and that's what I'm here to do, and I'm going to do it. And as soon as I kind of said that to my guides, again without words, you're kind of like talking, yeah, it's weird, like with telepathy I guess, then the scene changed and I was back in my body and back in the situation I had come from, the trauma I'd come from. Yeah, and then it kind of continued, and you know, that sort of experience in my family dynamic and everything continued for a few more years. But so that was the first near-death experience that I had. As I was journeying through life, and sort of enduring this trauma that was happening on a daily basis almost in my family and everything, there was a time where I was being harmed again, and in that scene I went unconscious and I left my body. And this one was different in that there wasn't any talking. It's almost like you start to lose words for it, where I was just awareness and I was just aware of what I was experiencing. Like I didn't have a sense of having like even an ethereal body or a conversation or beings around me. All I felt and was aware of in that one was being in this incredibly beautiful, rich, like just such a beautiful peace, energy, feeling within me, and white light everywhere. But this white light had this energy of like complete peace and beauty within that peace and richness within that peace. And it was so just amazing and made me feel whole. And then in this one, I actually kind of popped in and out between, my guess was probably that I was coming in and out of consciousness, because one minute I would be in this peace place with the white light, and again without a body, without a form, even almost without an eye, in my brain. I just have to use that language now to talk to you. Um, but one minute I would be in that peace, and then the next minute I was back in the abused moment. But then I would pop back in to the peace, and it kind of went back and forth like this a little bit. I don't know really how long for. It felt like forever. And yeah, every time I went back to the peace place, it was harder for me to, like, there was an added layer of difficulty with that one, because every time I went back and then I came back to the trauma, it was like, oh my goodness, take me back to the peace. You know, I don't want to be here. I want to be back. I don't want to be in my body. I want to be back. And yeah, I guess at a certain point I just landed back in my body and continued in that experience and in my life. But that one really taught me about this quality of peace, and in my healing from those experiences I had to really cultivate and integrate that frequency or energy of peace, of home, inside it myself. And being able to have that experience and touch it, it gave that to me. And when I healed it, because there was a long time in my life where I had a longing to go back because of that, and made being alive still very hard. But I had to learn, and I was taught through that peace is always available within each of us. We just have to learn how to tune ourselves to it. And then the last near-death experience that I had was when I was approximately, 15, 16. Again, it was in a moment of trauma. I lost consciousness. I lost my breath in this one. And then again, this is where I lose words and try to talk about it, because you go into a place of not having. Again, I was in a place of like I stopped existing, and like I didn't have the I-ness, the ego. I just have to use it for our understanding now. So I was in a black void-like space. This I always like to describe it as if you and the audience, you guys watching, if you can imagine that like you were out in space, but you were in like really far away from our solar system, where new universes might be being born in the distance, and it's very, very empty, and it's very, very still, and as we know, space is silent. And it was as though I was just floating in this void black space. But it wasn't scary, it wasn't like a horrible emptiness or anything, it just was. It was very, very neutral, and now I feel like it's sort of beautiful. And what I really remember is the silence, the stillness. Like, I've never known stillness like that since. And I was there, and I was just, there was nothing to do, there was nothing to be. I just was, and I had an okayness with all of that. And then I started to see this flickering white light in the distance of this space, and it would have looked like a little star starting to be born almost, or a little light, and it was flickering. And at first it was very, very distant and tiny, and I was just watching it. And then it got bigger and bigger, and it got stronger, and it kind of seemed to get closer. And then at a certain point, before it had even gotten that close or big, everything just went bang, and everything became white light. I would describe it, for lack of better words, as like an explosion. Now I kind of think about universal supernovas and the way that stars are born. If you look at universal mechanics, very interesting. And everything became the white light, and I became the white light, it felt, I would say, like I dissolved, like any I that may have been left was completely gone. And this is where I really struggle with words, because it's like I was in what I now call the isness of the universe, or the God force, or light, that which we all are. And I was it, and it was me, and I was dissolved into that. And I just remember feeling that and just being in that. And yeah, it's such a pure, rich, beautiful feeling. And then I don't know how long I was there or anything like that. Probably felt like eternity. And then I guess at some point I regained consciousness again, back into my physical experience. And again, like, just continued surviving in my life. Came back to my body until I, was able to get free from that situation and really live out those miracles and spiritual embodiment now in my day-to-day life. So after each of my near-death experiences, my abilities, they stayed the same. I've been very psychically open since like my first memories. And yeah, it didn't really change much for me on that level. Yeah, I can speak to what may be unfolding in our year ahead. This insight doesn't really come from my near-death experiences, though. It's just coming from my connection to spirit. So this year, believe it or not, is already one that is like gonna be more intense than previous years. And I say believe it or not because they've all been pretty intense. And there's a reason that I think some people are calling it like the year of the dragon right now. And this is because it's just more of a concentrated energy into our humanity's ascension. Ascension meaning as we come into a higher vibration and a higher consciousness and remembrance of who we are as spiritual, powerful beings, and we get our power back. We are really going to be asked this year, we're halfway through the year, you guys have probably already been feeling it, really asked to step fully into your power, almost like being put in situations and positions and experiences in your life this year where it's like you have no choice. It's like, oh my gosh, like I have to face this emotional issue I've been avoiding, or I have to get rid of this toxic relationship, or I have to step up in my purpose or my career. Otherwise, like, basically I'm not going to be able to keep going. I'm not going to be able to get what I want. I'm not going to be able to grow. And that is like, it's like a pressure, there's a pressurized energy that's happening right now. And we want to see it as a good thing. It's because there are higher rays of light coming onto the earth that cause you to raise in your light to meet it. And that's just because Earth is going through her very natural growth, her own growth and ascension, and we have to match what is shone upon us. And it means that we have to purify the stuff in the way of being in that full power, full dragon energy. And yeah, on the individual level, it's going to be experienced like that, like this pressure. On the collective level, there's, a few different pieces, but a couple of the main things is the initiation and continuing rise of the feminine empowerment. So women are really being called to really get into your kind of priestess abilities, your intuition, like anchoring into that remembrance of the feminine mysteries and abilities that women intuitively have, because it's so needed for Earth's highest ascension. The feminine has been missing from the planet, and that's part of why it's like the Earth physically has been suffering. She needs that nurturing energy. and we act as channels or anchors for that, for helping her, and obviously ourselves as well as that, and your own empowerment. It's going to be one of those things you're not going to be able to avoid it. And even though it's challenging to heal as a woman, a lot of the grief and the suppression of just holding back probably your own expression of your femininity, you're going to be called into situations where you need to let it out. And the more you let it out, the more free and easier actually this whole experience is going to be. And then the other significant thing for this year is obviously the rise of artificial intelligence. This year particularly, if we look at everything, like last year was kind of being talked about, and this year it's like fully in our face. And artificial intelligence is a whole conversation. I have a lot of videos on it if you guys want to have more information about it. But it's really, again, like a big choice point collectively for how we want to choose to evolve. Because whilst there are benefits to having a kind of powerful technology at our hands, there's also a lot of responsibility that has to go into that. And there's also a lot of players, like people who have agendas with something that could be quite powerful. And the choice point is for you, are you going to advance yourself and your personal development spiritually and just psychologically and all the things in your health? Are you going to do it from an organic, rooted to the earth place, and you're going to keep using natural tools? And are you going to not allow using technology to bypass your development of your intuitive abilities? One example of what I'm expressing here is, so there are groups of people who are like, let's have artificial intelligence and let's have it like we're all hooked up to like a neural network, or let's upload our consciousness like into like the metaverse, and these sort of making our consciousness and your energy technological, or merging like, let's put a chip in our brain, bringing metals and things and other electronic frequencies into your spiritual and physical body. When you do that, there are consequences. We have a natural system that's very intelligent, and so we all are going to be asked to find the line for you of not costing yourself your connection to spirit. Because as much as people might have even good intentions for uploading their consciousness, and we would all be connected and we'd all solve the wars because we know what each other's thinking, we're here to actually evolve and create, heal ourselves enough and raise our vibration enough naturally that we can develop the capacity to have enough empathy that I can tune into the collective and I can feel what other people are feeling, and I can even connect to other people's thoughts with their permission and things like this. You have that capacity inside of you, and technologies like this say to you, hey, here's like a fast track to do that without doing the healing work to build yourself up enough for that to be something. And that's where, okay, now you have this power, that's where you could, and people who haven't done healing work, their ego isn't dissolved enough, we can run into trouble. So there's more to it, but that's sort of the choice point this year as well. These are the themes. It's a really important year, yeah. Right now in the collective, there is the potential for what we would call a world war. However, the world wars of the past, the ones now, if it is to come to pass, would be very different. It would be more on the cyber level, technological. There's almost like a kind of subtle war going on already with the sort of technological way that humanity is being right now in that AI sort of stuff. And yeah, I would say that it's definitely a potential. However, it doesn't serve us. I just like to add that it doesn't serve to get worried about it, because you always, when you guys hear predictions, I just like to add that you need to position yourself in a powerful state. So if you hear that and you freak out, do not listen to any predictions and stuff, because it's getting you vibrating in fear and stuff, you know. But understand that there are many, many potentials, and understand that you are the source of your reality and creating it. And there's also the potential for that not to unfold. We are in a time as well where the energy is so, like, because we're in an ascension cycle, the energy is so, like, it's doing this, now it's doing this, and it's really concentrated, it's really strong. Predictions can change, and they can change easily at this time. But yeah, there's always that potential, but I trust in humanity's path. So my biggest takeaway or learning from having these near-death experiences, I would say for me within myself, is just a really tangible, like, it's not just a concept, awareness that we are more than the physical experience, and that we are literally, you are literally just in one dimension, or sort of accessing one dimension right now, and that it is, like, so just limited, and it's just the perception that we have right now, because when you leave your body, your consciousness, you become more able to access your multidimensional perspective, because you're no longer as vibrationally concentrated into your third dimensional self and individual self, which we need to navigate this realm. But yeah, it's really powerful to have that awareness of, like, okay, like, right now, like, if I died, I would be okay, like, if that happened, you know. And also to know that there is a lot of universe and light and spiritual beings around you right now in the same room. It's just all kind of layered on top of each other. And if you develop your intuitive capacities and things like this, we can tune into that and we can see that. But it's just, imagine how your life would be different if you knew for 100% certainty within yourself that you have these helpers around you, you know, and that you're never alone, and that this life is just one experience that you're having. Because when you are out of this individual concentrated perspective, the kind of neutralness and stillness and lack of fear that a lot of people describe in the near-death experience and that I had, it's coming from the fact that as soon as you step out of this, like, limitation, you have full awareness of, like, oh yeah, like, this is just like a place that I'm playing, and this is like a dream. In one way to imagine it is also, like, for the audience, is like, if you have you ever had, like, a super vivid dream where, like, you're in it, and, like, in the dream you're having, like, a whole life or something, and then you wake up, and even though it was so vivid, it was so real, and you were fully there, you know, and you're like, oh, it was just a dream, and you just go back to your life. That's how it is when we go into if we go into our full death transition. And I think knowing that in your physical life really helps you to live, and it really helped me to live with more freedom. You know, we can't truly live if we are afraid, and the death transition, it should make us unafraid to live fully. We shouldn't be afraid of it and then restrict how we live to avoid death, because you are an endless being. So that's what it really gave me. The best preparation that you can do for these sorts of things in the coming year is to develop your intuition. So again, just using the example of artificial intelligence and the way that it's coming to our society right now, like, if you see a video of something these days, it could be totally fake, right? And it could be a video of a spiritual teacher that you trust, that you like to follow, that someone else has made that is fake. it could be a video of like your friend. You know, there's lots of agendas here and potentials with that. But if you have developed your psychic ability, you're going to be able to sense what's real and what's not. And you're going to be able to sense truth. Also with like the politicians and people, we need to be able to look at them through an intuitive eye and be like, I see you. Like I see the tricks or the darker energy that's here versus the light and good intentions. So yeah, I think the best preparation is to be developing yourself intuitively. Really develop it, get good at it, and also enjoy it because it's a fun process, magic. And it's your birthright. It's your birthright to have that ability to navigate life. Like it's not meant to be this hard. That's why we're intuitive beings. Yeah.